Republican Congressman from Texas, Jodey Arrington, joins me now. Boy, just to see your governor there pleading for some help from these energy companies. What are you up against? Why is this happening?
Well, this is poor planning. We should have had winterization. We should have had power reserves that were adequate. We should have had a smarter rolling blackouts, sort of a curtailment of power plan, and none of the above happened. Now, 99% of the time, Harris, we have the most cost-effective, most efficient energy supply of any state in the union. But then there's that 1%, 30-year, once-in-a-generation storm, and those investments have to be made. And the power's back on, the heat's back on, but water supplies for about a third of the people of Texas are still struggling, having boiling water requirements and the like. So we're still struggling and limping along to recover from this tremendous storm.
Look, you know, I love capitalism. We all do. My goodness, it's the American way. But what has to be done to rein in these energy companies now? I mean, I realize you deregulated them, but my goodness, people are making a decision between whether or not they're going to eat and pay for heat. That's punishing.
Yeah, look, we shouldn't be a no government conservative party. We should be a limited government party. And there are needs for certain safeguards and consumer protections. And in this case, there's a gap in requiring utilities to make this investment. If you don't, then they won't, because it cuts into their margin. And so here, this is an example of where you have to balance some level of requirement, safeguard, and regulation with an otherwise free and open market that will serve the customers the best. So it's just recalibrating that, but it's a shame that it wasn't done and that so many people have had to suffer.
Well, you just put the T back in transparency, capital T there. That's if they don't, or if they're not forced to, then they won't make those types of investments. Thank you for that. I spoke with Texas Agricultural Commissioner Sid Miller on Friday, and he pointed out that the Republicans, for what happened, pretty much needed a warning that consumers across the board were going to pay a price. We're seeing what that's like now, but let's take a look.
Now, us Republicans, we run the state, and we've dropped the ball on this one. It starts with our governor. The buck stops there. They okayed raising the price of energy on our consumers when they can least afford it. Our farmers, everything's backed up in the supply chain, so they're going to receive record low prices again, and consumers are going to pay record high prices when they can least afford it during the pandemic, during this record freeze.
Representative Arrington, you gave us so much transparency just then, and it sounds like members of your Republican Party who are in charge in Texas are in agreement that going forward things need to change. How do you fix that now, though? How fast can you do it?
Well, it's going to be as fast as this week, and it's number one on the legislative agenda. We're in session as a state, and they've got to stop. They've got to put a moratorium on people being disconnected from their utilities for not paying their bills, number one. There are those exorbitant bills that are coming in that have to be dealt with. That's first and foremost, along with the water supply. Long term, you've got to find out why the PUC, Public Utilities Commission, it's a 3-member commission appointed by the governor, and ERCOT, that independent grid operator, did not make the investment, did not make the requirement of utilities to have reliability of power sources through this emergency, through this disaster.
Well, look, you know, if Democrats are looking across the aisle and figuring out what would make it worse, maybe it's this. Migrants are beginning to enter the United States through the state of Texas today, with all that's going on, after President Biden rolled back the Trump administration's Remain in Mexico policy for those seeking asylum. The very first group of migrants already entered California on Friday. Congressman Arrington, what does this do to your state at this point?
Well, it's insult to injury is what it is at this point, because we pay $12 billion annually just in Texas. That's one border state. It's not just the economic cost. It's the fact that our federal government's first and most important job is to protect and consider first the American people, our citizens. And we have 25,000 people just in this this caravan or the people that stayed in Mexico waiting for their asylum claims to be processed. We don't know who's in that group of people. We haven't vetted them. We've got restrictions. We've got mandates on the American people. But these folks will come into this country illegally. They'll be released into the interior with not any test, with not any vetting. And there's more to come. The message is clear.
Wow.
The Biden administration has said we're open for illegal crossings, and we've empowered the drug cartels. This is now their most lucrative business, and there's going to be more exploitation of poor and vulnerable people. That's the bottom line.
It's hard to believe the timing that Democrats are doing this with. And you mentioned testing, COVID testing. Title 42 that President Trump, former president, leaned into and said this will protect us as people come into the country illegally or try to. And all of that, it seems, would be put by the wayside. So wonderful to have you on the program, so transparent, lots of good answers to what's going on out there on the border and in Texas. Jodey Arrington, Congressman from the state of Texas, thank you.
Be with you, Harris.